live on stage. That sound.
Orlando.
So, is they ready?
Yes.
That sound.
Orlando.
You know?
What is going on, party people? What is going on? You know what time it is. Welcome to the Sound of Orlando show. This is your boy Rome, live and direct from an undisclosed location, right? Because we got a lot of craziness going on, man. Today was a busy day. It is Wednesday. Shout out to Wu-Tang, man. Woo Wednesdays. It's a Wednesday, but it's not a regular Wednesday. This is a crazy Wednesday. This is a Wednesday in which the Houston Rockets trade, Harden to the Brooklyn Nets. Shout out to Brooklyn. So he'll be playing alongside KD, and maybe Kyrie Irving once he leaves the Fever, or the Palladium, or Studio 54, wherever he's at, whatever club he's at. So Brooklyn made a move, and in the same day, in the same breath, President got impeached. I mean, what is going on a Wednesday, bro? This ain't your average Wednesday. But like we do here all the time, this is the Soul Show. It's all about the cultura, the culture, hip-hop. You know what time it is, man. Glad to have everybody tuning in tonight. Now, if you notice in the beginning, we have some sponsors. Shots out to my man George with Tom'sSons.com. If you do not feel like wearing your average mask and you want your mask to match what you're doing, man, the fashion that you're wearing, make it unique to you, man, hit up my man Tom's Sons out of Manhattan, New York. Just straight fire fashion mask. Please believe me, it is incredible. And we also got to give our respects to the man that does our graphic work, Mr. Jesse Jazz, and his company 5stargraphics.com. If you need printing, please go see this brother. He is completely amazing. Logo work, business cards, printing. You heard? Go check the man out. 5-Star Graphics, all right? As you can tell, I'm rocking my Chiefs shirt today, man. Spent a lot of time in Kansas City. That team grew on me, man. So shout out to Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. That's Kansas City, man. That's what they do. They decided to play good as soon as I left. So shout out to that whole thing, man. Hopefully they get a repeat. Now, this is the Soul Show where we represent the cultura in Orlando. We talk to our people, and I'm always giddy about having representation from all sides of the fence, especially my Boricuas. You know what I mean? And we got a special man on here tonight, man. He's representing the cultura the way it's supposed to be, man. He has been kind of in all kinds of different things, man. He's been on radio. A lot of y'all may know him by the promotions that he's done. He's done some legendary promotions in the city of Orlando, O-Town Sound, the City Beautiful. And, when we're talking about contributions in hip hop, we got to big up our Boricuas, because it's not said enough, the contributions that we make to this thing, this beautiful thing we call hip hop. So without further ado, let me bring on the legendary, my brother from another mother, Earl, Big Earl, Lugo, let's go. Hermano, what's up?
What's up?
Welcome, my brother.
You already know.
Yes. So glad to have you, man. It's been a long time coming. We've been anticipating this for a while, bro. And it's a pleasure to have you on tonight, man. And I like I said, I always get a little giddy, man, because, our representation, Los Boricuas in hip hop, sometimes it seems like we have a very small footprint because a lot of times we're playing behind the scenes. We play inside baseball a lot of times, so we're not always in the front. But it's always good to be able to talk about the culture in a way to where everybody could see that this everybody's got their hands in hip hop, and that's a beautiful thing, bro. Whenever you can talk about all of the ingredients involved, you feel me, brother?
Oh yes, I feel you 100%. And thank you for that star-studded intro. I really appreciate that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, bro. You already know, man. Familia, brother.
Yeah.
Salud con eso. Let's go.
Thank you, man. You already got my mojito.
Yes. So, let's get started. Let's get started where it all began, bro. Talk about the roots. How did you get started, and where are you from originally? So the people that don't know, they know now. Let's go.
I'm born and raised in the South Bronx.
South Bronx.
South Bronx. I was raised on Fox Street, St. John's Avenue, 149th Street area. I think I lived on the same block for 20 years. We probably moved from one building to another building, But I just grew up around the right time, man. Around 77. I'm gonna say I was like 9 years old, and I was already sitting on the stoop in front of my building, in the Bronx, just checking out all the graph that was just popping up every so often, because all the buildings was like abandoned at that time from all the fires that was going on in the South Bronx. So you saw a lot of graffiti. I think the graffiti was our way of asking for help, at the same time trying to make our neighborhood look better. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So by the age of 10, I was already a graffiti writer. I was already running around with all the older cats, catching tags and doing motion writing, tagging on trains while they were actually running, with people sitting in there. When we used to, do tags like that. We was crazy at that time,
Right. And talk about that for a minute, because for a lot of folks that are young bucks, they don't realize how important all the elements of hip hop was. And even during the times where we didn't know that was hip hop yet, or it was called hip hop yet, all these elements were interconnected. Talk about that tagging and what it meant for the city, and seeing the burners on trains, and on the walls, and knowing that oh, I know that dude, or you being that dude. Talk about that.
Well, the way the graffiti game was introduced to me by the older cats, they made it like very clear, like the object of the game was to be up. The more you were up, what I'm saying, the more better and more recognizable of an artist you were. And once your tag was in every city, for example, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, and even Staten Island, then you could consider yourself what they call an all-city king. So that was pretty much like the trophy for us young writers, was to try to get as much fame as we could.
Right.
The older guys, they were more into creating masterpieces and doing the burners and coming out with different styles. Whether it was mechanical style, wild style. We even had some Japanese lettering out. We had the bubble letters, the blockbusters, top to bottoms, 3D. I mean, you name it, we was creating it, and that was my introduction to a culture that would go on to become hip hop. So
right.
That was my introduction to that kind of life that was going to lead to that. You know what I'm saying?
Now, you're talking about the South Bronx, and for a lot of people, they may not know what that South Bronx was. You know, when you said the burning of buildings, the landlords that were looking to cash out on them insurance, you know, checks, and they would burn down the whole building, you know, and pretty soon the whole city kind of looked like Iraq, you know, or some war-torn country, you know, because they were just allowing the buildings to be damaged on purpose. And talk about that. Talk about growing up in that world, and the importance of knowing how to survive in that.
Well, let me tell you, I remember being 8 or 9 years old, and my grandmother used to make me go to sleep with my clothes on, fully dressed. We had a suitcase with all our important papers and whatever valuables we did have right next to the bed, because we were always on point that if we smelled smoke, we knew how to get out that house using the fire escape. You know what I'm saying? The buildings were going up in flames even in the daytime. I mean, I remember being a kid in the neighborhood, and you see the fire truck come, and you see a giant fire, and all the kids are playing on the fire truck. Like, you know, like we didn't know any better. Like it was just like, oh wow, look at the fire truck. We didn't even see the real angle, which was there may be people still in that building burning up. You know what I'm saying? Right. So somebody's house is on fire. Like, as kids, it became so regular that at any given time there could be a building going up. You know what I'm saying?
Now, and I know we're talking about this like, you know, like some regular caffeinated coffee, you know, but what you're talking about in this day and age,
come here, Berto,
would be completely traumatic for a child to grow up in, right? Seeing their neighborhood being burned down, or living in fear that your neighborhood is going to get burned down. How was that for you? Like, was that traumatic for you? You know, did you have like certain, like, you know, did you deal with that later on in life, having to grow up in those conditions, or were you able to just kind of accept that as what it was?
I mean, after a while, you just got adjusted to that kind of life. Like I said, you could just be outside minding your own business, and there'll be a building just burning, whether it's on the right side of you, on the left side of you, or even in front of you. You know, so I mean, the fires, that was just natural. That was going on all the time. I actually remember being a little kid and walking with my grandmother one time, because she said that President Jimmy Carter was visiting a neighborhood in the Bronx, and you know, we went over there, and I saw Jimmy Carter with my own eyes. He was crying. He had tears running down his face, and he was just standing in our neighborhood, just looking around, you know, like, what the F is going on out here? Like, you know, people looked at us like we was a war zone. I think the way they said during one of the World Series games with the Yankees, I think it was Howard Cosell was announcing the game, and he's, you know, talking about what's going on the field, and then he looks to right field, and he sees a building burning up, and he was like, oh my God. And you could go to Google and see this. And he's like, the Bronx is burning. The Bronx is burning. That was the front page of the Daily News. You know, it's crazy. You got to give me 1 second, Rome. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, you good, brother. You good.
1 second.
Yeah, you're listening to the Soul Show, where we keep it real, man. It's just like we're at a bar, man. Man had to go use the restroom real quick. That's what we do. Shouts out to everybody tuning in right now, man. We love you, man. Shouts out to my man Infinite. Yo, what's good, homie? Shouts out to Danny Rivera, another Bronx bomber. Yes, man. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to my man Big Haiti. What's good with you, homie? Shout out to my man Ricky on the check-in. Shouts out to Alfredo on the check-in. Shout out to Benny, Big Ben. What's good, homie? Las Serranos, you already know. shout out to you, man. We talking about this culture, man, from a human perspective of the things that we all kind of dealt with or seen as we came into this hip hop game. So back to Mr. Big Earl and talking about growing up in the South Bronx, South Bronx.
Yes, sir. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a challenge. It made me who I am today. You know, at the end of the day, you know, that was probably the worst of living in the Bronx, what I just talked about.
Right.
You know, even though we was poor, me and my friends, we was always rich.
Right.
Deep inside.
You know what? And I want to explore that, man, because once again, this show is about talking about real life, right? And so for a lot of people, to your point, poverty is the worst thing in the world. But for people like yourself and people like me, poverty sometimes is the best thing that ever happened, because it allowed you to maintain the real values of life, which are love, empathy, loyalty, wanting to be, a better friend, a better brother, a better sister, wanting to, having fun with rocks or marbles or whatever. Like you didn't care about the things that you had or didn't have as much as you do now as an adult. Poverty didn't break you. It made you, which is awesome.
Exactly.
And you just described a very good space in the world that poverty is not a South Bronx thing. Poverty is a worldwide thing. And depending on how you look at poverty will depend on your success in life. I think that's pretty fucking amazing, if you ask me.
It's true.
Talk about. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, it definitely made me and most of my closest friends, the ones who survived,
Right.
It made us all better people. We all have careers. We got great families. We're educated. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And when I went back to school a couple of years ago, people laughed. Certain people laughed at me. They was like, "Dude, you 47 years old. You gonna go back to college for what?"
Right.
And I was coaching Little League, so the kids that I was coaching, they would get on me because I wouldn't let them play if they didn't get good grades. Right. So after a while, they wanted to see my report card. So I didn't have a choice. I had to really, really do good. When I went back to school, I had promised myself anyway that I was going to really work hard and I wasn't going to have no distractions. I wasn't taking no shortcuts. I was going to go in there, sit in the front row and just do everything I got to do to make sure the teacher sees that I'm here every day, that I'm very involved in the projects, and going back to growing up in the Bronx, playing in the abandoned buildings, I wrote my first paper for my English class was based on me and my friends making clubhouses and playing in abandoned buildings. And I titled it Fun in the Slums. And I got an A+. Talk
about it. About it, man.
Hey, the professor could not believe. She could not believe that we lived like that we was doing stuff like that. Right. Playing in abandoned buildings, playing hide and go seek, finding body parts. There was a time where me and some of my friends found a leg in an abandoned building, that belonged to a young girl who was killed, and they chopped her body up, and we found a piece of her body. 10, 11 years old. I mean, that shit's not normal. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, man.
It just ain't normal.
Nah, man. And for a lot of inner city youth, the stuff that they are exposed to, you hear this message all the time that, these kids or these people, they suffer, they're this, they're that. And they talk about it like, like we're doing it to ourselves in that kind of way. And they don't realize, like, despite all of that could have probably broken someone that was in a home where everything was put together right, where they had the mom and dad there, they had everything set up straight. And to think that you had less and the odds really are against you, because when people get numb to death, normally people turn into killers. You've seen that happen all the time, growing up in gangs or, out there, doing dumb shit. You'll see some shit and then you become it. So all the odds are against you. And then you're here, you're living and talking about how you went back to school and it didn't break you. No. Nothing was right about that in the regards of what we think right is. But it was absolutely right for us, for you. That was the right conditions to groom you into the person you are. And you don't hear that talked about enough. That, you don't have to have everything in place. You don't have to have the great environments to do those things. Not to say we're celebrating it, but I'm just saying, bro, kudos to you. That didn't fast track you to prison for the rest of your life or death, by being around that, being amongst that. And I do want to ask you, what was your motivation to go back to school?
I found myself feeling like I was kind of at my end point in the legal field, where I wasn't going to grow anymore because I didn't have an education. So right. I was in the legal field for 20 years. I used to manage mail rooms, manage office services. I was a clerk, you name it. But after close to 20 years, I pretty much capped out. There ain't gonna be no more raises. That's the most someone in that position is gonna make.
Right.
So I found myself, thinking about it and saying, okay, what can I do? I've only been in one field my whole life, in the legal field. I know I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't have the time and the money to go to law school. So I went to Valencia College, which is the most recognized college for paralegal degrees in all of Florida.
Valencia.
Yeah, and I got my my degree in civil litigation, and it just took me to a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? A whole level of respect in the field. So
you mean to tell me you're gonna sit up here on this show and you're gonna say education is synonymous with respect? Is that what you're saying, bro?
I'm gonna be honest. I used to be that person that used to argue with people and say, I've got 20 years experience. I don't need to go back to school. But I learned from my peers who tell me different. And they say, it's not really about, having that piece of paper on the wall, like some of us would say, because that's our way of talking ourselves out of going back to school. But it's the whole procedure that they look at you like you took the time to go back to school for all those years. And you took the time to work hard to get that GPA high and get them good grades. And then they feel like you deserve a piece of the pie that they've been dividing to themselves for a long time. and not wanting to really share it. But, you know, let's just say I used to be the guy that used to bring the notebooks and the pencils in the boardroom and leave. And now I'm the guy who sits in the boardroom and they bring me the pencil and the pad, and I sit there and I'm part of the meeting. So yeah, I mean, if I didn't go back to school, I don't think they would have offered me that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, this sit your ass down somewhere moment has been brought to you by Big Earl.
Yes.
Go back to school.
Where your drink at? Let's toast.
Go back to school. If
Yes,
you
sir.
need to go back to school, there's nothing wrong. And you know, I could bear witness to that because around 40, I decided to go back to school myself and get my bachelor's degree in business. And to your point, there was people saying that's crazy. How you gonna do it? How you gonna juggle that and a full-time job and a family? And how are you gonna do all of this? And I'm one of those people, just like how you described, where, you know, I'm just going to dive in. Sometimes I don't know what the end looks like. I just got to take it step by step. And it was hard. It was tough, but I wanted to do that for myself because I didn't see a reason not to. You know, I didn't think, you know, being old was a good enough reason. You know, and for a lot of people, and just to kind of tie into what you're talking about, for a lot of people, when you make decisions about your life that way, normally you're never going to find the value outside of you. It's got to be for you. You want to have that value for you. And not everybody needs to go to school, but for those that want to go back to school, I think school has got a bad rap because there is a lot of wasted money. There is a lot of non-important stuff there. But, I mean, it's just like traveling the world. You know, how long can you be on Earth and not know something you don't know? You know, it's one thing about being comfortable, but if you don't know something, I mean, go find it. Go know it. There's not a reason in this world to stop you from improving you as a being. So kudos to that, bro. I mean, respect, man, because that is not easy to do at our age.
Exactly. Hey, I see DJ Quest is asking. DJ Quest, the OG, is asking what was my major. So my major was civil litigation. I was in the paralegal program. So I got my AA in that.
Dope, man. Congratulations.
I think people want to hear some hip hop stories. Let's give them some hip hop stories.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
I don't know how much time we got. So
yeah, talk about how you got into the culture aspect of it, the hip hop culture. Whereas after the graffiti, you start doing these other things in hip hop. Talk about that.
After the graffiti, I became a DJ. So I was DJing back in 1978, 1979. I used to take lessons from a DJ named KD, who was in a group called the Fascinating Force. And they used to battle groups like the Furious Five and the Cold Crush Brothers. And they was the group in my neighborhood. So Cold Crush Brothers was a couple of blocks away. You know, my man Joe Conzo from back in the days, the famous photographer. You know, he was from over there by Prospect and that area. So we would always go over there and watch the Cold Crush perform. And there was always a lot of school parties. We used to call them jams, you know, out in the schoolyard. DJs bring all their equipment out and all the MCs, you know, before it was rappers, they would call MCs. And they would all line up, you know, and the DJ would take the two records and go back and forth and take the little break beat and just stretch it out long enough so everybody could get on the mic. You know what I'm saying? So I was witnessing this at 10, 11 years old. I became a DJ. I did it for about maybe two years. I I went by the name of EZL, the 3 letters EZL.
Nice.
And I used to actually teach the younger kids how to DJ too. They would come to my house before school, and we throw on the old beats. Whether it was a Rocket in Your Pocket or To Be Real, and Seventh Wonder, Daisy Ladies, Mardi Gras, The Bells. All the original classic beats before there was ever any rap records. Either put on wax or played on the radio. It was what we were, the sounds we were providing in the schoolyards. So I went from being a graffiti writer, I was a DJ, and then from being a DJ, I kind of got into the b-boy a little bit. I grew up with one of the best electric boogie dancers in the world. My man Steven Clemente, go by the dance name of Mr. Wiggles. He lived down the block from me, so he used to teach me a lot of moves. He was also Puerto Rican, so I looked up to him. When I was a graph writer, I used to look up to all the Puerto Rican graffiti writers like Mitch 77, Mr. Chic, the first Latino rapper. He was a graffiti writer. And I used to see his stuff, and their crew was actually called LA, which stood for Latin Artists. So, I was a big fan of those guys. And then, years later, the Tats crew up the block from me, around the corner, in the 80s, they started bubbling, So yeah, I was a graffiti writer, a DJ, a b-boy. I never wanted to be an MC. I think I tried once or twice and I wasn't good at it, so I just kind of left it alone. But years would go by, and my daughter was born 1990, and we had an opportunity that we could go live in Virginia Beach with my wife's aunt. She was married to a guy in the Navy, and pretty much he was on a boat like 6 months out the year, and she was home alone in a big house all by herself. So she was offering us a way out of the Bronx, an opportunity to raise our daughter, differently than how me and my wife, what we saw on the come up growing up. Because we both grew up in the same area, me and my wife. We know each other since kids, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we end up in Virginia Beach, and I'm gonna say, it was just so country. It was just so laid back, so quiet. It was driving me crazy. I was like, yo, coming from the Bronx and all the noise and all the fire, alarms and the sirens and just, I couldn't sleep at night. It was just so, so quiet. It was crazy. I couldn't believe that we was, like living in the country somewhere,
Right.
And the crazy thing is, I had a nice resume. I had about 4 or 5 years working in the legal field, as a manager. So I felt so confident that I was going to go out there and I was going to land a job. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get a job real quick. I got experience. I work for New York lawyers, and that wasn't the case out there. I was interviewing, and it seemed like all the firms were small firms, so they had no room or no use for a guy like me. They could do everything pretty much. They're like, our lawyers can go in person and file everything. Our lawyers can, send an outside messenger to do a delivery, do the filings themselves. In New York, they always needed a guy like me because the lawyers don't want to leave their office. They want somebody to go do everything for them, whether it's, go deposit their money in the bank or go pick up a signed document or go file some in court, go serve some papers on somebody. There's just so many things that somebody like myself could do for a large law firm. And in Virginia Beach, the small firms, they didn't have that, you know. So I'm gonna say three weeks went by. I was already, you know, pretty much thinking I'm gonna end up coming back to New York. I'm gonna have to, you know, plead for my old job back, and you know, we're gonna have to figure it out, you know. And one night, I think it was, matter of fact, I know it was a Friday night. It was around midnight. I was playing with the radio, and I heard this this hip hop show on a station called 103 Jams, right? And there was these two guys that were going back and forth. You know, they had that flavor, like I could hear it in them. I'm like, yo, these guys ain't from here. I could hear it in their voice, you know. And they called themselves the Buddha Brothers, you know. And people out there, you could Google those guys. Those guys are world famous. You know, they were one of the biggest hip hop duos on radio, you know, in the 90s and early 2000s, until one of them passed away. Rest in peace to DJ Law. But I heard these guys on the radio. You know, they had a real dope show, and then all of a sudden, one of the guys says, you know, call right now, 757-275-8935. Call right now. Put your shout outs out. Shout your people out. Represent where you from. And I'm telling you, you know, I lived in New York 20 some years. I never picked up the phone to call a radio station or do a shout out. Like, I don't know. But I was so bored, you know, that I called. And the guy picks up the phone and he's like, who's on the line? And right then and there, I think that was the birth of Big Earl, because that was the first thing that came out of my mouth was like, yeah, this is Big Earl, representing the South Bronx, Zulu Nation, Tatch Graffiti Crew. You know, I just started like just name dropping. And the guy was like, wow, like he was kind of like amazed. And he said to me, he said, yeah, I'm real familiar with all them crews. I'm from Harlem, right? So when I was done with the shout outs, he kept me on the line and he asked me, he said, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, I ain't doing anything tomorrow. Why? He was like, yo, you think you could make your way to the radio station tomorrow? He said, I'd like to get you on my show and we could talk about everything you kind of just mentioned right now.
Right. And,
you know, I was like, you want to talk, you know, like you want to interview me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, I was like, so I went to the radio station the next day, and you know, they took me to the production room. They threw me some headphones. They gave me a mic. Guy said to me, you know, I'm just gonna start asking you some questions, some graffiti questions, some hip hop knowledge. He said, I know you know, you from the beginning. You've seen it with your own eyes. Tell my listeners a little bit about the whole structure. You know, how hip hop was how you saw it, you know, become. So I'm like, cool, no problem. So we go on the air, and you know, he threw. I never forget it. You know, it was like yesterday. He threw the Sucker MC beat on, and we just started talking, and I just broke it down. You know, I let them know that, you know, at one time there was nothing but gang wars in my neighborhood. You know, you had the buildings being burnt, and then you had all the gangs. I mean, real gangs. You know, with the cut off jean jackets and the bandanas and the chains and the MC boots. Like that was real. Like, you know, before the Warriors, you know, the movie and all that. And like that was really what was going on. And every neighborhood had a gang. You know, but once hip hop came about, you know, you got to give those old gangbangers a lot of respect, because they played a part in the creation of hip hop.
Right.
They actually kept the peace. You know what I'm saying? So whenever there was a party going on in the neighborhood, they always provided free security. So they would make sure nothing went down, and they always made sure that the DJ doesn't get robbed for his equipment. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because the stick-up kids was out there. They would come, you know, roll up right in the park and just pull out sawed-off shotguns. I actually saw it one time. I'm being honest. I seen it one time. I was at a schoolyard party, and a car came out of nowhere, and everybody ran, and the DJ didn't run. He didn't know what was going on. And 3 dudes came out with sawed-off shotguns, and they just took everything and put it in the car and drove off like it belonged to them. You know what I'm saying? That's how bad it was, in the Bronx at one time,
Stick up kids is out to tax. Yep.
Yeah.
So you get on the radio.
So after so I do the interview. I had my portfolio with me, which was like a photo album that till today I still own it. It's just bigger than it was at that time. But the photo album had pictures of graffiti on trains that me and my friends did. It also had a couple of pictures of me and Fat Joe, because he was from the neighborhood. It had pictures of me and KRS-One, because again another graffiti writer. So we had pictures together. So the Buddha brothers are looking through the photo album. They're seeing all these pictures. They see the graffiti, and then dude straight up offered me a job, man. He was like, "Are you interested in being a host?" He said, "I got a Friday night old school edition show comes on. It's called Live from the Hood. It's a 2-hour event. You would be a great host. I would play the records and you would do the talking, and you could get some of your old school friends on the phone." And it was incredible. And on the first, listen to this, on the first night that I went on the air, the guy tells me, he says, "Earl, I got some." If you remember the old graffiti hip hop movie Wild Style, right? My boy Law, he says, "I've got the VHS tape of Wild Style." He says, "I'm going to give it away as a prize." He says, "But I got to come up with some kind of trivia, so I just don't give it away, so easy." So he tells me, "Think of something real quick." So I was like, "Okay, well, you know what? Let's ask the audience if they can name the Furious 5. And he's like, "Okay, that sounds like a great idea." So he goes on the air. He tells everybody what prize he has, and he tells them some background on the movie, who was in the movie, who made the movie, and then he says, "First caller to call up here and name all 5 of the Furious 5 will be the winner." So the phones start ringing, right? Once again, this is a town, so ain't that many people living out there. So the phone was ringing. I could see the lines lighting up, and he's taking calls, and he's got them on speaker. And there's one guy, he had 4 of the names, but he named one guy twice. If you know your hip hop history and you can go back that far with me, I believe there was one guy who had one name and then he switched it like an album or 2 later. Right. So I'm not sure if it was Raheem, used to be Mr. Ness, then he called himself Raheem, or if it was Scorpio that changed his name and called himself something else. I can't give you 100% on that right now.
Right.
But we explained this to the caller, and he thought we was cheating. He thought we was cheating him, and I don't know what got into me, because this before the cell phones, right?
Right.
So this is a Friday night. No, actually, this is a Saturday night, and it's like 12:30 in the night. And I don't know what got into me. I don't know if I was just feeling a little cocky, or I just felt like showing off in front of my new team. But yeah, there you go. See, Danny Rivera, he would know. Mr. Sheik said Mr. Ness changed his name to Scorpio. There you go. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Shout out to Mr. Sheik. Let's go.
Salute. So I felt like showing off. I said, you know what? Let's get Melly Mel on the phone, right? So my boy Law and the other guy, Big B, their eyes light up. Like, you're gonna call Melly Mel, Grandmaster Melly Mel? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna call him. That's my boy. I didn't even think about like, yo, dude, like it's Saturday night. It's 12:30 in the night. You know, how do you even know if he's home?
Right,
How about if
right.
he's not home? Right? How about if he's not home and he lives with like his grandmother, or, you know what I'm saying? Some old people, you know.
Right.
But in my heart, I felt like he was going to pick up the phone. So sure enough, we dial the number. We're all sitting there with our headphones on, hearing the you know, the phone ringing, ring, you know, ring, you know. After the fourth ring, I started getting a little scared, and then boom, hello. I mean, that deep voice, the Melly Mel voice. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
hello?
right.
And I start talking to him real fast, right? Because I'm kind of scared, but I'm hyped up at the same time. I know there's pressure on me. The guys is watching me. We got listeners on the air. So I say, yo, Mel, it's Earl, man. Yo, this is Earl Dorn from 149th Street. You know, I live at 712. You know who I am, Lil Earl. And he's like, yeah. What's going on? Why you calling me so late? I say, yo, Mel, man, I'm living in Virginia Beach now. I'm working on the radio. We on the air right now, live, you know, with the world famous Buddha Brothers, DJ Law, Big B. I've got a caller on the line. He's trying to win a prize, and he can't name all 5 of the Furious 5 MCs. Can you name them? So he names them all, right? And then of course the listener says, how do I know that's Melly Mel?
Yes.
So everybody looks at me like, yeah. So how do we know that's Melly Mel? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So here I am, 12:30 in the night on a Saturday night. I'm bothering Melly Mel at home on a home phone. And now I gotta ask him, Mel, do you think you could kick a quick rhyme real quick?
Oh my God.
So that the people will know that it's you. And it just got quiet. And we're all looking at each other like, oh shit. We done pissed Melly Mel off.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it was like this. It was like, Shaka Khan? A Shaka Khan? A Shaka Khan, let me rock you, Shaka Khan, because all I want to do, I want to rock you.
Yes.
Shut it down.
Yes.
Shut it down.
Yes.
Dude, I pretty much ended up getting like a full-time job.
Wow, bro.
I mean, it was like, dude, you can do Fridays and Saturday. It was like, this is it. But dude, that's
what hip hop does.
That was my introduction to the game as a professional somehow. Right. So growing up in the Bronx, doing the graffiti thing, being a DJ, watching the whole evolution of hip hop in front of me, you know, put me in a position that when opportunity came, I was able to take advantage of that.
Right.
And I knew everything, and I wasn't getting my history from no encyclopedia. You know, I had got it up in personal. Got it right there firsthand. I saw it with my own eyes. You know, and I was always a humble. You know, I was always a humble kid growing up, and I did right by everybody. I wasn't a bad seed. You know, I didn't disrespect nobody. You know, and now as an adult, you know, all them people I saw on the come up were all in good positions. You know what I'm saying? You know, the Furious 5 was big. The Cold Crush brothers, you know, they were legendary. You know, Mr. Chic. You know, I mean, you know, I what can I say? You know, I when I talk to Mr. Chic, I tell him, I say, Mr. Chic, you know, when I was a kid, you know, I used to get picked on because I was Puerto Rican, and because my own friends and even some of my family members used to tell me that I wanted to be black. They used to say, look at you. You think you black. You act black. You dress black. You know? And I was like, I'm like mock necks. I don't know if black people make mock necks. I don't know if black people make Kangos. I don't think the black people make Kazals. You know, I'm not disrespecting anybody because I did grow up black. I ain't gonna lie. I thought I was black for a long time. Until
are black.
Somebody told me I was.
Every Puerto Rican is black. End of story. That's just what that is. That's what that is. We are from Africa. Yes. Yeah. Continue, my brother.
You know, so that was my big break. You know, was landing that gig on the radio, and then from there, I came home one weekend to go shopping, and I used to support Fat Joe's. Fat Joe had a clothing store called 560 on 3rd Avenue in the Bronx. So me and my wife would always go there and buy mix CDs. I think there were still mixtapes at that time, mixtapes, and we buy clothes. You know, he had the Fat Albert stuff. He had Echo when Echo first came out. You know, and then one day we came and we just bought a ton of shit. You know, and one of my childhood friends, another graffiti writer named Brim, who was the co-founder of the Tax Graffiti crew, he was partners with Joe in the store. So he asked me, he was like, Earl, where you living at these days? And I told him, I'm living in Virginia Beach. And he was like, yo, because you keep coming down here like every week buying mad clothes. And he asked me, are you selling the clothes? Are you marking them up and selling them? And I was like, nah, I'm not selling. I buy them for me, or I buy them for, I take orders for my friends. And he approached me. He had a business opportunity for me. And he took me to the storage room, and he had tons of stuff that was kind of outdated. He couldn't sell it. And he just dumped it all on me. He was like, yo, pay me as you sell it, like a big consignment deal.
Nice.
And, I came back home, and then I added that to the list. Now, I was working on the radio on the weekends, and I was hustling, Monday through Friday, just pulling up to the hoods wherever the money was at, and pop my trunk and just start pulling stuff out. Like I was a salesperson right in the street. Like, you look like an XL. Look, I got this. My man, you come here. I got something. Go right with them sneakers. That's a large. Come here. You look like a 34 in pants. I got some jeans. I got the, whatever. That was me. And, I did that for a while, and everybody got to know me through that. And it helped build a relationship with Joe and Brim, where they asked me and my wife if we didn't mind running Fat Joe's fan club. He had just started a fan club. And, he asked us if we wanted to run it. And, they bought us a computer. Computers were new on the scene. Bought us a computer. They had a website went up, and we ran that. And, when Joe came one time to do radio, and he saw that I was working at the radio too, he was like, yo, dude, you work here too? You're doing this and you're doing that? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yo, you know what? I'm only asking $3,000 a show, man. If you get me a show, you take $300. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. So I started that. I started asking people if, all the promoters that I knew would hire us to do radio events or DJ at their parties. I started selling Fat Joe shows to them. You know what I'm saying? And that opened another door. Now I was like, okay, now I'm a host on the air. I host parties at the clubs. I'm a booking agent, and it just kept getting bigger, man. It was crazy.
So talk about how you landed in Orlando and how you got down here.
All right. Well, I came here in '98, so I was pretty much piggybacking off of Big Pun's success. God bless the dead. We was platinum, and I made a major impact promoting his project in Virginia, which doesn't really have too many Latinos whatsoever.
Right, right.
But the impact was so big because of how we structured all the marketing and how I did all my recruiting of the street team members and things like that. That Pun asked me if I was willing to move to Miami. He had just started a label deal, so he had just started a label. It was called Let Me Show You Records. He signed Tony Sunshine, and I believe he was getting ready to sign Remy Martin. He had just found her. So he already had an idea of who he was going to be working with, with his own umbrella deal, whatever.
Right.
So he asked me if I was interested in coming to Miami. He had just bought a house for his sister, and he bought a house for his mother. Right. So eventually, I think he was going to probably try to make his way to Miami later on. But, first thing he wanted to do was situate his mom and his sister. I spoke to my wife about, possibly moving to Miami, and, we thought about it. And, there were a lot of people doing what I was doing in Miami already. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I would end up coming to Miami and just being, another person, that's doing all those things.
Right, right.
The only advantage I had was I had Big Pun as a client. You understand what I'm saying?
Right, right.
But after speaking to one of my mentors, who worked for a major talent agency, and he told me, he said, "Why don't you go to another town in Florida?" He said, "Somewhere a little smaller, somewhere where your people are strong." Right? And he said, "But there's not that many people doing what you do."
Right.
And I came to Orlando on a vacation, and I thought it was incredible. And then my wife told me that she had an aunt that had just moved down here. So we had we went to visit her while we were on vacation, and we just kind of looked around, and she had space in her house where she said, if you guys felt like coming down here, you could stay here for a while till you get situated and get your own place. So we played with the idea for a little bit, and then one day we just said, what, let's do it. We were like, let's do it. And I tell you, we packed our shit, and I think I had $1,000 in my pocket, and we came down here. It was 1998. It was right before the 4th of July. And we ended up moving out here, and we were staying over there. What was that area? The Alafaya area, which was nothing but woods at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
And you pass by there now. That's a whole new world. Waterford, you got all kinds of stuff over there. But when I got here in '98, there wasn't nothing over there. UCF, was close by, but that was about it.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that big.
Yeah, so that's how we got here. We came here through that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And you've done some legendary stuff out here in Orlando. Your respect precedes you here. Talk about some of the things that you brought to the city.
Well, when I first got here in '98, I think the first time that I went to a club was the Palladium, and I just saw, I saw something that was a little disturbing to me, and I talk about this in a book that I'm writing right now. But I noticed that the Latinos was not getting any love here. You know what I'm saying? As far as like in the rap game, '98. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
Now there were artists, right, putting out music on the ground, whatever. But I remember going to the Palladium, and I saw two guys. I can't remember exactly what the group's name was, but they were two Puerto Rican cats, and the guy told me that he had to have 50 people buy tickets to the show in order for him to perform, and that just blew my mind away. You know what I'm saying? I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, that's the only way they're gonna give us some time on the stage. So,
welcome to Orlando, buddy.
yeah.
Yep,
It's pretty sad. But,
yeah, it is.
But that just motivated me, that I was like, okay, I've been fighting for Puerto Ricans in hip hop since the 70s. Let's take that back. Like I told you, growing up was tough on me a little bit because I used to get picked on because I love hip hop so much, and because a lot of people, they don't remember, but before the music hit the scene, the hip hop music hit the scene, fashion had already made its way to the hood, right? So we all was dressing up as fly as we could, even if we wasn't going nowhere, even if we was just standing in front of our building in a b-boy stance, we was dressed head to toe. You know what I'm saying? With the matching gear, that's just how it was. So fashion plays a big part in hip hop. I think a lot of people forget to mention that part as one of the elements. It was brought to my attention not too long ago, in an interview that I was watching, and I heard my brother Thurston Howell talking about that. He was talking about how fashion played a major part in hip hop before people were rhyming and DJing. We was dressing fresh, to go to these these parties. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But fashion plays a big part in hip hop. Just like we would talk about the all the elements, the graffiti, the b-boying, the MCing, the DJing, and then I'm gonna go back and tell you that Puerto Ricans, I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm telling it like it is. Mr. Sheik is on here. He was there. If you've done your history, but we were kind of the best, if not the best, graffiti writers. We were the best b-boys. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We didn't have a lot of rappers, but the ones we did have were incredible.
Right. And Busy B, I had Busy B on the show, and he spoke to that. He spoke not only that Puerto Ricans were there from day one, but he spoke to the roles that everyone played. Obviously, when you talk Rock Steady Crew, we have Breaking on Block. That's just what we did, and we did it better than most. And to your point, graffiti writing, that was just what that was. But there was, you're alluding to it, but there also was that stigma. There was that old generation, the old guard, that had issues with what hip hop was doing, because Africa Bambaataa had this grand idea of us all unifying as one people, but the old guard prior to that, they never seen that, nor did they believe that. So for a lot of Puerto Ricans, experience in a lot of ways, they were told, what do you think, you're black? You think you're negro, prieto? And made to feel like because you wanted to be a part of this, you were trying to be black, which hip hop was all of us. It wasn't just this idea of whatever the old guard thought what black was, because black is all of us. We're all black. It's just that old guard was told their children, and people were told, their fathers and mothers told them, it's not good to be black in America. You don't want to be black in America. So they had all that stigmatism to it, which created this kind of division within hip hop in a lot of ways. We dealt with that here, to your point. Puerto Ricans ran most of the clubs in the 90s. It was house music, freestyle, club music, and there was very little places for Black people to go during the 90s in Orlando. We had to go certain different places, and they would say these like code language things. Well, we don't want all the ghetto people here or this here. So they would intentionally sometimes not even play. If you asked them to play hip hop, they'd play some whack record just to say that they played some rap. But or they would play hip hop for like 30 minutes. But that was the experience of the division down here as well. And but as far as the hip hop scene, as far as Puerto Ricans rapping out here, there was plenty of them. But to your point, Orlando had a history of being kind of divisive when it came to the cultures, and the city was very divided a lot. Kissimmee was always Puerto Rico or country, and you had part of the other city, like, the West Side. That's where the West Indians, the Caribbeans, and the Black people live. So, very rarely when you see us kind of unite in clubs during the 90s. Now, mind you, this is during the 90s. If you went to a reggae spot, they ain't playing no fucking hip hop. Or if they did, they would play it for like 15 minutes, half an hour. So there was so much division during that 90s window. But there was great stuff, like people like Hitman, DJ Khaled, Nasty, Caesar. Their events always included everyone. It felt like everyone was included. It wasn't a divisive place. Like those were some of the safe spaces that we had, like, kaleidoscopes, and, there were so many great places that we, but they were like once a month, you know what I'm saying? Once every 2 weeks. They were just so sporadic. But the main spots, man, yeah, there was a long time where freestyle and house music ran Orlando clubs in general, just in general. The dope spots, the big spots. So we had to create our own. You know what I'm saying? We had to go to the halls. Shout out to all my peoples that know about that Rotary Club, and creating these spots where we could go, where the Tony Touches could go.
Sure.
Tony Touch used to come down to the halls and play. They weren't showing us no love on main radio back in those days. So, he was on 91.5 WPRK, Rollins College.
Yeah. I know. Let me tell you, when Tony first came down here, I wasn't living out here, right? So the way I heard the story from Tony himself was he was born in Brooklyn.
Right.
He moved down here when he was like a teenager. And he told me, he said, when I got there, I used to call myself Brooklyn Playboy. Right. So he didn't even have the name Tony Touch yet, and he pretty much came here and was telling people like, hey, this is what we do in New York. We pop lock, we scratch, we rap, and
right.
and he started kind of educating everybody who already had an idea that they wanted to, go down this path. You know what I'm saying? Like I seen footage, videotape of Tony Touch performing, or I should say doing a radio set at Rollins College.
Yeah, that was with Khaled and that was with Khaled.
Exactly. And if you look behind him, right?
Right.
Khaled.
Yeah.
Nasty.
Right.
Caesar. Everybody was learning.
Right.
And Tony was the kind of person that he's like, watch this. Let me show you how we do this. See, I put the needle right here. I do this. You know what I'm saying? And that's why those guys have so much love for each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the way it always should be. Like, it should always be each one teach one. It should never be, it should never be like I'm better than you and you're better than him. It should be like, hey, how can we help each other?
Right.
Now that doesn't always work though. You know what I'm saying? But You know, you got to be the better man and at least try. At least give it a try. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't work with agendas. Normally, teaching involves a freedom and a confidence. Agenda, you know, it requires a discipline to, you know, you're doing what you got to do. You're not caring about teaching someone, you know, and so a lot of people are out for themselves, you know, and they don't see that the people that you teach today will never forget it come tomorrow. You know, it will return back to you. The fruits of your labor will be given back to you for all the toiling of the land, you know. And you know, Tony was very, very, still to this day, very respected and considered to me Orlando alumni, because he was here. He would go into those house clubs. He would play house, you know, just so he can get playing. But we all knew he was a hip hop kid. You know, he wanted to play hip hop. You know, that was the thing. But for back then, you know, like I said, hip hop had a scarlet letter on it in Orlando during that time for a lot of places, because they didn't want the crowd that was associated with that. A lot of these club owners, they refused to allow these places to play anything, you know, that was the hip hop that we loved, that we thought was dope, you know. But they would play bass, they would play, you know, dance kind of club music, whatever. But very rarely would you get a lot of these clubs playing hip hop. So shout out to all the clubs that were doing their thing back then. You know, the Palladiums. Shout out to Jesse Jazz. I forgot about that joint because Jesse was busy back in the days too.
Jesse. I see Ruff is on here. Peace to Ruff. Yeah. My man Benny Blanco. Shout out Benny Blanco.
Yep.
My man John Noon up in here. So
yeah.
Shout out
man.
everybody.
Wow, it was good. But yeah, you know,
nice.
You brought down some legendary people here, and you know, like a lot of brilliant people, you did it your way, and that requires courage. You know, especially in a town in which you're just starting to get to know things and starting to realize the cultures. You know, a lot of these people feel like you know, you got to do it with them or the way they want it done, and sometimes it takes the courage enough to kind of make your own path and figure out how you can get people involved, but get them involved through the vision that you have for it. And you know, I've seen some of the stuff you've been doing. You know, what you've done with Thurston Howell III. He was on the show as well. Shout out to him. You know, great people. You surrounded yourself with great people.
Yeah, that's my childhood friend, man.
Yeah.
We go back. I met Thurston Howell. I was 17 years old. He was 16 years old. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't even Thurston Howell III. You know, he used to go by the name of Gucci. He was always fresh dip at 16 years old, head to toe. You know what I'm saying? You know, already representing the fashion game. And you know, you had to be nice to call yourself Gucci. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And get away with it coming from Brownsville. But yeah, that's my brother from another mother. And I'm fortunate that, you know, I grew up around him, and, you know, I think he's one of the best underground, hardest working artists that there is. And I appreciate, you know, every opportunity that he gives me, you know, to help him and learn from him, you know. And now, you know, I do that for others, you know. But going back to the whole situation with the Palladium, and I see them dissing these people, that was what gave me the energy to say, you know what, you know, I want to meet the owner. Who's the owner of this place? You know, somebody needs to tell them, you know, that his people are not carrying themselves professionally, you know. And I felt they were being biased, like they were treating everybody but the Spanish artists good at that time. You know what I'm saying? So I got to meet the owner. His name was Alex, very, very popular guy. Everybody on here who's ever been to the Palladium knows who Alex is. He was the owner, and Alex kind of said something playing around like, if you get your own night, you can do whatever you want. And I think that was an idea that stuck in my head. And when Pun died, I thought it was the right time to put together like a tribute for Pun. And I went in person and we spoke with Alex at the Palladium. And at that time, I was doing some independent record label work with Maximilian Records. Shout them guys out because they made a lot of noise out here. Big Will, Flacco, and
Shout
all
out
the
to
guys.
Maximilian.
Yeah, God bless Big Will, and all the guys that came up under that, under that umbrella. You know what I'm saying? Your Johnny Bravo, South Star, when he was North Star, South Star, Chichi Yayo, Sonny Chulo. I mean, they had a great bunch of artists over there. But yeah, Will back me up on that one. We put up some money and we brought Cuban Link down and we brought some cats from Puerto Rico, before reggaeton was even reggaeton, when they was calling it underground.
Right.
We brought the big guys from Puerto Rico to come down and perform, as a tribute, to Big Pun. We brought them guys down. We even had Allen Iverson, in the building. You know what I'm saying? And that was my first concert that I ever had anything to do with from beginning to end. You know what I'm saying? I had done a lot of bookings in the past for people, being the middleman. You're the promoter, he's the artist, this is the venue, this is my fee, this is what it's going to take to happen. Put it together. Ain't got nothing to do with me no more. I just show up, have a nice time. If it sells out, it sells out. Nobody shows up, really not my problem. Not that I ever felt like that, because I've always wanted to see everybody win. If I see you invest money, I want to see you prosper. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not one of the people. But the Palladium show, Tribute for Pun, that was my first show. So that was in 2000. And that just opened up a door where other nightclubs started reaching out to me and was like, hey, would you like this night? Would you like that night? But I didn't want to have a weekly night. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was more comfortable just doing something, quarterly, just doing something big, something major, something that people were going to enjoy and talk about it for months till the next one came. Right. And that's when I met my business partner, Chill Will. Chill Will is actually cousins with Tony Touch. And he was, at that time, Chill Will was a coach for the Cleveland Indians, the baseball team. He used to coach the minor league baseball.
Oh, wow.
So Will was sitting, Will was sitting on some money. And he had a dream. He was like, Earl, my dream is to be a big promoter. I want to do concerts. I want to make money. We could do this and we could do that. And we just kind of got together. And I think the first concert we did, we teamed up with Taboo. There was a guy named Joey Capone. He used to do a Wednesday night. Everybody on here from the old school remembers the Raw Wednesdays. Joey used to throw with Nasty and Pro Style DJing, So
let's take it back.
Yeah, so this is about 2001, 2002, and he used to rent us one of his Wednesday nights every couple of months. So it was pretty much like all the responsibilities fell on us that one day, but all the money that was made was ours, and we was totally in charge. I mean, we called all the shots, from who gets in, who's at the door, who's counting the money, we was in charge of everything. And he was a real good dude. And he gave us opportunity and we never let him down. So the first show we did, we brought Tony, of course. Tony Touch came down because he was easy access at that time. And I was good friends with Guru, God bless the dead, and I convinced Guru to come down for like a fraction of what he was really charging at the time.
Right.
You know, I kind of sold it to him like, this is my introduction. You know, if I do real good here, you know, guy's gonna give me, you know, he's gonna give me opportunity every time I want it. You know, and he was like, Tony Touch gonna DJ? I'm like, yeah, Tony's gonna DJ. You know, we're gonna get you tickets to Disney. You could bring your new wife and your kid, and I mean, it was incredible. I think we had about 1,300 people there. I think capacity at Taboo was 1,500, but we had about 1,300. You know, we made good money, and I don't think we even sat down to actually celebrate the night because we were so amped up. Like, yo, who are we gonna bring next? Who's gonna be next? You know,
right.
But it was so cool. You know, it was so cool. Taboo, man.
Know about the Beecham. All my old school heads out here, it was called Taboo. It was called Zuma Beach. It was the Beecham Theater. And it was Decos. Yeah. So that all my Orlando people, you already know. Continue, my brother.
Yeah. So from that show, I mean, the list goes on, man. You know, we brought Sean Paul here. We brought the Clips when nobody knew who they were. I started doing birthday bashes. You know, I had Pitbull perform at my, I think it was my 32nd birthday. And nobody knew who Pitbull was because I had just got to know him like a couple of weeks before I asked him to perform. And he had no record deal. He was strictly underground. You know, I was working on the radio with La Mega.
La
Mega, bro. That's another thing that we made history with. La Mega is the biggest Spanish station in the world, right?
Wow.
They offered me a radio show on Friday nights. It was only a 2-hour show. They were looking for something different. And the guy tells me, you know, if we give you that airtime, you know, you can play, you know, underground Spanish music again before the reggaeton title came on board.
Right,
you know?
right.
And I kind of told the manager, like, I don't want to go that route. Like somebody already does that on this, you know, on this station.
Right.
So he was like, well, what are you gonna do? I said, well, I want to play English music that was created by Latino artists. And he's like, I don't know if that's gonna fly. He says, you think you can get sponsors to back you up on that show? I already knew. I guarantee I'm gonna get sponsors. I guarantee it. You know, so he gave us a shot. And sure enough, you know, I call all my neighborhood people. That's why it's always good to be humble and always be good to people and practice karma because it's going to come back. So, you know, I contact, you know, my barber. He had his own barber shop, Nelquan's Touch. Shout out Nelquan's Touch. He came in as a sponsor. I had a friend, used to have a Spanish restaurant called Mundo's. He came in as a sponsor. You know, Men's Closet came in as a sponsor. You know, we had like 4 or 5 sponsors at like $500 a month. Those guys, they were loving me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you know, first show we did, you know, we played, you know, some Tony Touch. We played some Big Pun. We played some Fat Joe, some Nori. You know, and then all of a sudden there was a knock on the door. I believe it was on the first night that we were on. There was a knock on the door, and when there was a commercial, I went to open the door, and I see Pitbull. I don't know who this guy is. You know, he was just like some cool kid, you know, in a red velour suit, real fast talking, and he had a CD in his hand. And if any other old school guys like Junebug or Sir Charles who used to come and hang out and actually work on the show with me or listening, they can tell you. But Pitbull's standing outside. He's got a CD in his hand with handwriting on it. Says "Oh yeah," right? Oye, Oye. And he says, yo, big girl, I'm friends with Don De Niro. He just moved to Miami. He told me today was your first show. So I drove down and I'm looking at like 2 fancy cars and a bunch of big giant Cuban guys in suits. And I'm like, yo, this guy drove like 3.5, 4 hours, out here. Like he didn't even know me. You know what I'm saying? And I invited him in. I didn't ask him, let me hear the song first, or I don't know, straight up, just because he was a Latino and he took that long trip, I invited him in. We put his CD on. We never listened to it. As soon as we finished the commercials, we went right into his song. The song was dope, right? It was produced by the Diaz brothers, and again, it was called Oye, right? And it was extremely catchy. I mean, we were like, wow. And then after that, we was like, let's just interview him while he's here. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
We just threw him on the air. We started interviewing him, and he started telling the whole story, how how he was discovered by Luke, and how he still didn't have a real deal, whatever. And I showed him a flyer. I had a birthday bash coming up. I'm like, yo, I got a birthday party coming up, in a couple of months. If you want to perform, I'll give you some time. And he was like, say no more. He was like, say no more. I'm here. And about 3 weeks later, he came down. He did about 2, 3 songs. Him, Don De Niro. My artist at that time was the Sick One. He performed too. And I think we had another group perform. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was classic. It was classic. And then I'm gonna say, a year later, he was a pretty big star, And look where he's at now. He's internationally known.
Right.
Pitbull.
And like you said, man, it is so important. It can't be said enough. Do not burn your bridges. Do not, and if you got to burn them, just burn them completely down to the ground. Yeah. But with that said, just be kind to people, man. Be 100 with people, and that shit will return. That guy probably, even though as successful he is, I'm pretty sure he can probably look to you and say, you know what, man, that guy was good to me.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've already experienced that with him.
Right.
I bumped into him a few years later at a big show when, if you remember the radio station, it was still called the Party 95, right? Party 95 instead of Power 95.
Right.
And they had a big one of the like summer jams out here, and he was the headliner. And I took a chance. I was with my wife and kids, and I took a chance, and I kind of went behind Washington Avenue, just so that I could get to like behind the stage of the concert.
Right.
And I saw Tony C. Shout out Tony C. Tony C's my brother from another mother, been good to me since I got here. But I can see Tony. Yeah, Tony C. I can see Tony C through the fence, and he kind of comes to the fence with me, and he says, "Man, I wish I could get you in." And I said, "No, it's all good." I like, "Is Pitbull back here?" And he said, "Yeah, he's sitting over there. Why?" I say, "You think you can ask him to come over here?" And Tony face lit up like, "I ain't gonna go bother him." And I'm like, "Yo, tell him Big Earl's here from La Mega. He knows who I am." And I could tell like Tony was hesitant, but he did it because it was me, and he saw my wife and kids. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he walked away, and next thing you know, Pitbull and a big security guard walk over to me, and he was like, "Open the fence, open the fence. That's your wife. Get my wife. That's your kids. Start playing." I mean, it was incredible, and he walked us to his so-called little outdoor dressing room.
Right.
And the kids, they got a kick out of that. They felt like stars. And
right.
they were familiar with his music. He was writing off the success of all the songs with Little John and remixes with Usher, Coolo and all that. He was doing that. So, my daughter was, I'm going to say like 12, and my son was probably 3 or 4. My daughter was like, she was like, forget about it. She's like, oh my God, Papi, he's so nice to us, this and that. And, we got to talk. He gave me his new phone number. And, he told me if I needed anything, call him. And a couple of years later, when I started working at the Little League, the kids were in need of some things. And, I called them up. And let's just say a couple of days later, his people send us $10,000 to do some major repairs at the baseball field. So, so what you do today, people, they don't forget, later on. You know what I'm saying?
That was breaking news. So let's go to our breaking news segment. Orlando, you just heard some breaking news.
Hey, yo.
Breaking news never stops.
Turn this motherfucking sound up, man. Blast this is turn the whole this up.
Explain what Pitbull did at a touch of a dial. One more time for the city of the O. Let's go.
Pitbull and his company, they made a very nice donation to the Little League, where I'm actually the president of the Little League today. So we were able to fix some benches and some fences because him and his organization, he's got a few foundations out in Miami, and he works real hard with the kids in the schools. But yeah, within days of reaching out to him, his people cut us a check for $10,000.
Man, if you guys don't learn any lessons from that breaking news, man, it's just going to be difficult for you, man. You might not make it, because that was pretty much laid out for you as simple as possible. Be good to people. It will be returned. You don't know from who, but it will be returned. And your whole story, man, sounds, like I said, the quintessential way to kind of figure things out and navigate while keeping your spirit together. You know what I mean? Like maintaining your relationships, be loving, be 100. Like this is what you would want to strive for. And you look happy. You look like life has treated you good. You don't look resentful or grudgeful, or I mean, it shines on you too. So I mean, you really gave a great story about the come up, not only in our city but abroad. And man, it's been such a great time having you on this show tonight, man. We went all over the place.
I mean, it's a pretty long story, man. You know what I'm saying? No. We would really have to like chop it up for like some segments, because the story goes
good, man.
The story goes back so far.
Right. No, but
I definitely
interesting story. But before we get out of here, 2 things I want to cover. What are your artists? Because you've been sending me music, it's fire stuff. Talk about some of these artists that you're promoting right now and where they can find their music and what you got bubbling for 2021.
Okay. Well, I was pretty much a little kind of like semi-retired as far as like managing artists. I was only committed to running the Little League and helping Thurston Howell out with his projects. And then one of my nephews landed on my lap. I'm looking for some assistance. I'm looking for some guidance, and I like, I don't know if I want to do this again. I did this before. I don't know if I want to do it again. Just hear my music. Just hear my music, and I listen to the kids' music, and he knocked my socks off. You know what I'm saying? And I could just tell he was, he's the chosen one. He's one of them kids, full package. Works hard. Puts out good music, great sound, good looking. So that's my new artist. We just signed a deal. He's under my management company. We're back in business. He goes by the name of Teo, Studio Geek. He's got a website up right now. I think it's at Wasey Teo. So I'm going to spell it. It's the @ WASETAYO. And if you go to my page, Big Earl promo, you'll see that he's on there. But he's got a song. First song we did, we did it with Thurston Howell III. I felt that him as a Puerto Rican artist, that was his way to make his introduction as a Puerto Rican in the rap game, was coming out with a song with a legend, Puerto Rican legend like Thurston.
Right, co-signing him. Yeah,
he co-signed him. He gave him some incredible tips, and he's just one of them kids. He's a sponge. He absorbs everything you talk to him about, and he sees it one time, he gets it done. I don't know. I tell you right now, he's way different than the last nephew that I worked with, who was extremely talented, just as well. But this nephew here, you don't really have to give him too much to go by. He just wants guidance. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's awesome as a mentor. That you could sit there and just talk to somebody about something, and their eyes never stop looking at you. They learn everything on the spot. But that's my new project right now. It's fun. We've been doing it for I think a little over 60 days. I believe we've been making a pretty big impact in Orlando. I know one of our songs is playing in France right now, in Paris. We're on a bunch of underground radio stations. We were just featured on the Tony Touch show on Shade 45.
Shade 45.
Shade 45. We were on Tony Touch's Instagram show, and we were just added to Tony Touch's latest mix CD. So yeah, I think it's just a snowball effect going on right now. I'm thanking the Lord for everything He do for us. I know it's got a lot to do with the karma and a lot of the hard work that I put in. All the volunteer work that I put in at the park, working with kids. Setting up scholarships, finding sponsorships. Raising money to keep the park open. Bringing famous artists from New York to paint beautiful murals of inspiration for the children in my hood, just to kind of help make things look better than they actually are, and give the kids some pride at the same time. So yeah, right now I'm a happy camper, man. I can't complain. I got a great family. We got the Low Zone thing going on out here, Low Life Orlando. Been out here since 2019. I'm overseeing that project as well. The Beat Ministry, those guys got a lot of talent. They're all involved with us. Yeah.
Shinobi Stalin's coming on the show.
Yeah, all them cats, man. Nico is, and Biz and Junie Ali and Fellow Gato, and once again Thurston Howell III. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, shout out to Jesse Jazz. I know Jesse 22 years since I first got on the scene. He showed me love. I showed him love. If I'm correct, I think I was the person who actually introduced him to Big Pun at the House of Blues. I'm not sure. Answer that one, Jesse. Was it me? Did you meet Big Pun because of me? Because I can't really remember, but I remember you being there, I think.
Did you hear that, Jess?
Yeah. And Jesse's asking me. He's asking me about some designs he did for. That was another nephew I had a couple of years ago. I was working with my oldest nephew. He go by the name of Humongous the God, and now he calls himself Kid Boo. He's an internet sensation. I'm sure you.
Kid Boo.
Kid Boo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So yeah, he's saying, yep,
Yep.
he did.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah,
you know,
man.
being able to do things like that for people, you know, I feel good. Like, look at that. 22 years later, Big Pun, you know, he's not with us no more. But Jesse can say, you know what? I met him through Earl. We just met that same day. I could have easily told Jesse, I can't bother that man. That man's focusing on doing a show. But I didn't do that.
Right.
You know, because I know I was that person at one time trying to get my foot in the door.
Right.
So for those reasons, I said, no problem, you know, come with me. And I believe I introduced a whole bunch of people to Pun that day, you know, and they can all have that memory because he's not around no more. You know what I'm saying?
And to your point, that goes a long way in Orlando too, man. You know, this is the sound of Orlando, and I know a lot of people out here for that moment in their hip hop ascension that is memorable because those moments sometimes have been few and far between in the experience of Orlando. Those things you remember. You remember when people are good to you. Remember when you meet these people that now they're in your hood, and those are always awesome times to kind of introduce them to your side of the wall. And so yeah, man, that is just completely incredible story. Shout out to Jesse Jazz, my dude, 5-star graphics. You already know, son. Now, before we get out of here, I have to ask you, because you've been talking about Latin rappers, and you sound like you love MCs. So, without further ado, one of my favorite parts of the show is Top 5 Dead or Alive, right? Top 5 Dead or Alive MCs. Big Earl, go.
Well, you know, we're going to change it up a little bit today because,
Okay.
you know, I can't be. I mean, you got to think about it. I've seen every generation of rap.
Right.
Right. So it would be really hard for me to give you the top 5 dead or alive. So
it should be a moving document.
Yeah.
It should be a moving document.
We're going to make it today. We're going to make it top 5 dead or alive Latino MCs.
Oh,
let's do that.
There you go.
Okay?
Let's do it. Let's go.
Without further to do, I'm going to say my number 5 is going to be Tito from the Fearless 4.
Shout out to Tito. Let's
Tito
go.
from the Fearless 4. All right.
Let's go.
Then I'm going to go to MC Ruby D. Ruby D from the Romantic Fantastic 5. Okay, Ruby D. You know, you might think I'm black by the way I'm speaking, but actually, cause I'm Puerto Rican.
Let's go.
That man was dope.
Go.
Right? So he's number 4. All right. Number 3, I'm gonna say Prince Whippoorwhip.
Woo! You
right?
digging, man. You
Ruby's
digging.
brother and Ruby D's rhyme partner with the Furious. Yeah, he was also with the Fantastic 5, right?
Okay.
So that's Whippoorwhip, right? Okay.
Taking it way back at the top.
And then number two, we're gonna go with Thurston Howell III because he's been doing this for 20 years. No record label, right? Straight up independent. Yep. Probably has about 100 videos online, 30 albums that he put out. Fashion icon, model. Forget about it. Guy's an author. He's been making a living off the hip hop. He's definitely, you know, in the top 5. So we give it to TH3. Now my number one is going to go to the one and only son of Tony, Big Pun, for going platinum, being the first solo Latino artist in the rap category to sell 2 million records on her first album, You know, he had a short career, but I must say, you know, that Capital Punishment album is historical. I
Insane.
believe that album will be around for forever, and I believe that we will dance at nightclubs to Big Pun songs for generations to come. Okay, all right. Now that's my top 5. I still got one more I want to add in there.
Okay.
Because he was the first person in history ever to lay a Spanish verse on a real hip hop song that was on the radio in 1981 or 82. The member of the Mean Machine, Mr. Chic. So Mr. Chic gets an honorary mention because he's the first person ever, Mr. Chic, aka Danny Rivera, aka the Mean Machine, aka Pull Up to the Bumper Baby, aka Fuego a la Lata, Agua que va a caer. Forget about it. Mr. Chic, you always made me so proud as a kid. You know, you made my voice strong whenever I was in a debate and people would shit on me and say, "Get out of here. You're not black." You know, I would say, "Mr. Chic ain't black." Mr. Chic was nice. Mr. Chic used to perform in suits. Okay? They was wearing suits before you had Jekyll and Hyde wearing suits. Because before that, the rappers were dressing up like punk rockers.
Right.
You know,
right.
with the leather chains and the dog chains and the spikes and the Webo boots all the way to the knee and the rubber bands and all that. That's how the rappers were dressing, you know, when they would perform, you know. So Mr. Chic and the Mean Machine, you know, they play a big part of my life. Like I said, I've been getting into debates for close to 30-something years about this whole topic about the Puerto Ricans, you know, contributions to the culture. You know what I'm saying? Right. You know, we are the co-creators. You know, right. That's that. You know what I'm saying?
That's that. I mean, the story has already been written. You can't rewrite history. It's already happened. That's probably as a closed case as R. Kelly, Trump, name it. It's closed. That's case closed. We already know that is the truth. And man, my man, shout out to Danny Rivera, one of our biggest supporters of the show, man. Living legend, man, just continuing to inspire all of these people, man. And the more I hear about how others are inspired by him, the more the respect just balloons for what he's done in this world. And shout out to you, Big Earl, because whatever you've done, whatever cake you baked, whatever food you cooked, everyone talks about it, you know, and that's a blessing. When you hear the flowers from other people, even before you meet the person, you know, everybody speaks highly of you. The legendary stuff you've done in the city, which I'm so thankful that, you know, we now have a platform where we can talk about what has been done in our city on a big scale and have that conversation, because that brings pride to our city where we live. And it's just a beautiful thing, man. We're better for you moving down here, brother. So we appreciate all of your work and all the work you're going to continue to do, bro. You know you're going to be welcome on the show anytime. And so are your artists. So, like I said, bro, thank you for joining the show tonight, man. We love you, man. We're supportive of you, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you for creating a platform for everyone here in Orlando and outside of Orlando. Because I even saw, you know, Busy B on here. I see Mr. Chic on here. So, you know, big ups to you, man. You know, we all had to find something to do, you know, during the whole pandemic shit. You know what I'm saying? Right. Let's get creative. Right. Let's find something fun to do. And right. I think you hit the nail right in the head. So I should be saluting you, man. So thank you for what you do. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that, brother. And sometimes you don't have to find anything. Sometimes it just finds you. You know, you just gotta be alive long enough for it to find you. And this is one thing, like I said, like I told you before the show, you told me I was going to interview people, I'd have looked at you and laughed a year ago, like, or a few months ago. Like, that was never in my peripheral at all. But, you know, like I said, invention is born out of necessity. I felt our city deserved it. I felt our city deserved to talk about people like yourself and the contributions you made in this city. I want it to be about our city and the filter of our city. So to your point, we're talking to people outside of the city. Yeah, it's through the filter of our city so that they know, like everyone else wants to know, that, hey, we exist too. We're here too. We love hip hop too. We dig the culture too. We're not just Disney here. We're not just, you know, some flyover city, or, you know, we're not just a tourist place. We actually got real people here that are doing real big things, and they need their flowers now. So trust that. Thank God for you, man. Big up. Give it up.
No, thank you, man. Hey, shout out to Alfredo Rodriguez, man. Is that MIM? Okay.
Alfredo Rodriguez.
I was kind of hesitant. I'm sorry. I didn't know if that was you or not. If I would have saw your name, I would have shouted you out earlier. But MIM, another great pupil of the game. You know, you talk to him, he listens. No, that's not, he doesn't think he's bigger than he is. Oh, no? Okay. No, that's not shout out to MIM. Anyway. Shout out to Alfredo Rodriguez. So.
Yeah. But, yeah, man, glad to have you, man. And like I said, you're welcome on the show at any time, man. So, word up.
Got it, man.
Hip hop in Orlando.
Well, God bless you, man.
Yep. Give it up.
So show.
Big Earl. Let's go. You. Yes.
The Lozo.
Let's go. Salute, my brother. Salute.
Peace.
Salute. Hey, man, you know how we do it in Orlando, brother. We talk. We share some stories. You know, we talk about the come up, what we're doing, and we're giving our flowers out now, man. Shout out to everybody on the check-in tonight, man. Thanks for staying tuned. Alfredo, Ricky, Jesse Jazz, my man, Mr. Sheck. Yo, shouts out to everyone. Strange Flow was good, homie. Shout out to my man, Rax. Was good on the check-in. Shantasia was good. Who else we got on here? DJ J Mob. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to Remington Steele on the check-in. Shout out to my man Infinite, man. All these people tonight, man, having a good conversation about hip-hop and all things Orlando, man. Such a great time. Such a great time to be alive, man. Want to thank you guys for joining the show. And for all my listeners that are listening right now, tomorrow we will have Mr. Mix, the incredible Mr. Mix from 2 Live Crew, legendary, sold millions of records worldwide, one of the most underrated producers in hip-hop. Mr. Mix from 2 Live Crew will be joining us tomorrow on the Soul Show. Shouts out to all my sponsors, 5 Star Graphics and Tom Sons. Please believe me, we love y'all. See y'all tomorrow. Let's go.